Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. I forgot to adjust the camera. I just ran into a wall. Totally fine. Happy Monday. Oh, we have so much to get into today. Where do we even begin? Daryl Morey said a really dumb thing. Torts got mad at the media, then kind of backtracked, but also seems to not understand why the media is asking questions about him benching Michkov. We're going to get into that a little bit. Joel Farabee threw some shade at Torts from a distance. That happened. Myles Garrett finally answered the question, how much does your happiness and the possibility of you ever making the playoffs truly cost? We got that answer as well. The NFL is a total mess. Free agency starts today. Saw a bunch of trades. DK Metcalf. They're now talking about Aaron Rodgers maybe going to the Steelers. I don't know how much of the NFL free agent frenzy we're going to get into, but there are just so many things happening. And oh, by the way, Philadelphia Union 3-0-0 to start the year after a mostly just flat out dominant performance up in godforsaken Foxborough, playing against the New England Revolution. It's one of those games where you're just watching it unfold and you're like, you gotta pot one here. Please. You're just waiting for one counterattack to go the other way and a 1-0 loss on the road. But it didn't happen. The Union, 3-0-0. Ty Baribo sets the MLS record for most goals through the first 3 games of a season. And my friends, I got to tell you, and I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong, I was not a big believer in the Union's offseason up through, 2 or 3 weeks ago. They did make a couple of last-minute transfers. The Union look really good under Carnell. They look really, really good. And I've always been resolute in the belief that Ernst Tanner is probably the best executive in Major League Soccer, and that he can go and find you guys that were on the scrap heap somewhere and just turn, and then just hand them over to the coaching staff, whoever's at the top, Jim Curtin, Carnell now. They just figure out a way to go out and find guys and fit them into whatever system they want to run, and they look as dominant as a Union team has looked. And keep in mind, this team isn't that far removed from a supporters shield. I was down there covering that season, covering them winning the supporters shield during the COVID bubble. This team has made it to an MLS Cup in recent years. But this team kept running it back. They made a few tweaks to the roster, and boy, oh boy, if you haven't started watching the Union yet and you want something to kind of boost your morale to help you get out of the doldrums of the Sixers losing and the Flyers also losing, the Union are a very good option. Also cheap tickets. I love that park. It's a great place to go watch a game. I think I am actually going to follow through this week and bring on a Union writer because I do want to make sure that I'm being fair to the Philadelphia Union because, again, if a team is going to be good, right, and this Union team is, then they're going to get coverage here on the Russ Joy Show. We're not just going to lead with the Eagles for the sake of leading with the Eagles. Union are really, really good. Really great start to the year. And there are a lot of friends of mine that were pretty much out. Fully out on the Union. And now they're all kind of looking at each other like, wait, is this real? This actually feels like maybe it's more than just a new coach bump. So it's very exciting stuff. Now we're going to go out to the comments, and then I have a lot to get into today. I'm really excited. I am. Some Mondays, it's not like a Monday rolls around and I'm like, do I have to do the show? But there are sometimes where on a Monday I go, shit, is there enough to talk about? Or you just try to find the inner excellence, right? Get the A.J. Brown book out. You try to find the inner excellence to get you to a point where you feel good about the show you're about to do. I gotta tell you, I'm feeling pretty damn good today. Is it because we changed the clocks? Probably not. It has been absolutely brutal waking up in the morning. And if you have kids, if any of you out there have small human beings that are tethered to you and that also, require you to keep them safe and clothed and bathed and provided with sustenance and a roof over their heads, you probably had a shitty part of your weekend when the clocks turned. And yet, here we are, friends, and I will once again petition. We don't need to change the clocks anymore. Just leave it like this all year. But what about the farmers? What about the farmers in the fields? They need to have light. They can't do their jobs if they don't have the light. That sounded like Pinky. That did. Hey, Gads, Brain, what are we going to do tonight, Brain? The farmers need the fields, they need the light. What are we going to do? The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Turn on the fucking lights. That's what they should do. The farmers just need to install some lights. It's 2025. Can we get a government subsidy for some lights? If that is the only real issue, can we all please just stop upending our entire lives for the farmers in the fields of like the 1850s or the 1910s or whenever the hell the time change started? Somebody's going to fact check me. I don't really care. I don't need the clocks to change. I'm happy now. This is nice. It's a little bit dark in the morning. It's light later on in the day. We all feel like there's hope in the world. Your like seasonal depressive disorder or whatever, or SADS, what is it? Seasonal affective depression syndrome. I don't know, whatever it is. Like that can go away now. We all feel good. Okay? The Phillies might be okay. The Union are 3-0-0. The Sixers are on a crash course with keeping their top six protected pick. The Flyers look like they've lowered the ceiling, lowered the floor enough to put themselves legitimately in contention for maybe a top 5 pick, maybe a little bit of lottery luck, just un poco, just a little bit of lottery luck. Lift them up. The Eagles won a Super Bowl. I mean, like, we're in good shape. Things are looking up. They're looking up here on the Russ Joy Show, and they're looking up in the Delaware Valley, and they're looking up for each and every one of you. Now I go to the comments. I've like actually had it in my head that I'm going to start taking notes to save myself time. Do I have a pencil? Does anybody down here have a pencil? He says to himself. I've now gone off camera twice. Once for the thing and now for this. So, okay, I'm actually going to take some notes. Because I have to make sure that I get through everything on the show. Nothing makes me angrier than when I actually do a show rundown and then I don't figure it out. That would be bad, very bad. All right, let's go out to the comments because that ultimately is one of the important things on this show, and I love and support everybody who loves and supports the show. Chris Freed says, does Russ support the booing of the Sixers and the use of the Philly sports fan mating call, E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles, during SmackDown this past Friday? I supported the booing of Paul George and the Sixers at SmackDown. It was hilarious. They gave the custom belt. In case you guys didn't see it, I could show it. I just don't want to have to remove it from the show later. It's probably not worth it. But Paul George and a few of the Sixers were at SmackDown on Friday at Wells Fargo Center. The fallout from the John Cena heel turn. We did not see John Cena. We listened to Cody Rhodes cut a promo 2 hours into the show. It was not, I don't think the show was that great. There were some good moments, but not a lot of great moments. People booed the Sixers, and I thought it was funny, and I thought it was totally acceptable. Joshua Gaynor over on YouTube says, it's another great Monday morning, and the Union and the Whitecaps are the last perfect teams in MLS, just as we all predicted. There's sarcasm in there. I know there is. JH says, morning, Russ. Good morning. Ford says, all right, 2 things today. 1, daylight savings time is the devil. Slept okay Saturday night, but then last night I woke up at 5:45 a.m. and that was it. Sorry, Ford. JH also says good morning to the chat. Chris Freed says, it was only after reading about Odyssey cutting a couple of 100 jobs last week that I learned that the CEO, David Field, resigned back in January. Crossing broad, dropping the ball with Radio Wars, yo. Reach out to Kinker. That ain't me. I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy who checks in. Superfan Eric, the concerned fan. I'm wondering how concerned the concerned fan is today. I got into it with a fan the other night. I might actually bring that up on the show. Do I hijack my own show with a hijacked moment from our show the other day on the Press Row show? I might. Sean C. says, don't get the anger over the Flyers. Give me all the losses. Tank. 4 losses in a row. No loser points. Most successful week in a while. Keep it coming. I will point out that, the annual 10-game losing streak is very much on the table for the Philadelphia Flyers. Without a doubt. I mean, it is very much on the table. And there are people, for some reason, that are upset. Now, I brought up the other day, we did the trade deadline special. There were people that were upset that The Flyers didn't get more for Kuzmenko, which I thought was crazy. There were people that were, for some ungodly known reason, just upset with the return on Lawton, that they thought should have gotten more for Lawton, and they were upset that Eric Johnson got traded, and not that he got traded, but like, you're getting back Giovanni Smith. Like, what exactly is he? And shouldn't you at least try to get somebody that can help you? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to show you somebody who got upset, and I have no clue. I still don't know why this guy was upset, and I'm pretty sure that the next day, Broads was on WIP, and I'm pretty sure he argued with the same guy. It had to be the same guy. I called it the only Flyers fan who wanted to see the team make the playoffs. So I'm going to hijack my own show here for a second to show you, and I'm going to promote going over to the Snow the Goalie channel for the full video. But Saturday, post-game, right? Flyers lose 4-1. It's an absolutely ugly game. And there's this fan who decides to like try to get into it with us. He's yelling at us.
Just brutal.
And listen, I love fan interaction with the Press Row Show. It's one of my favorite things. It is one of the many things that set apart the Press Row Show from the radio and from TV. It is one of the things that makes the Press Row Show the most unique live pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi. West of the, I can't do it unless it's a Press Row Show. Press Row Show, number one rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, south of the 52nd state, Canada. See, if I'm not at Wells Fargo Center, I don't remember it. This guy kind of like tried to hijack the show. Now, I'm going to kind of skip through here a little bit. But this guy, I'm going to mute this part. This guy, he gets like very animated, and he's yelling about wanting the team to make the playoffs. So let's jump in here.
Playoffs are still in play. I'm delusional. How am I delusional?
So this fan thinks that the Flyers shouldn't have any of the young kids playing right now. They should have veterans out, and they should be going on a playoff run. That's what this guy was yelling about.
I waited 15 years and I've been here?
Yeah, I don't know. The guy was like trying to make the point that like, where have I been? And I was like, I've been here the whole time. I don't know if he thought I was really old and that like I can remember, no offense to people who were around for the Stanley Cups in the 70s, but I certainly was not.
I'm connecting his name right.
And so this guy, I'm like, all right. I said to intern Andrew, let's get this guy on camera. And then this guy, you know, he's clearly holding a friend's beer can. This guy is certainly, he was not having beverages. He has a Coca-Cola cup in his other hand. He was having soda, holding his friend's beer can. I definitely wasn't arguing with the drunk fan post-game. He definitely did not just put the beer can up to his mouth. And if he did, there was probably soda in it. But we were like going back and forth, and I'm just trying to figure out, I'm trying to understand a little bit better why this guy's so upset. And then it occurs to me that like he's delusional. And there are still, for some reason, people in this area that seem to think that the Flyers, like even with the remote chance of making the playoffs, should actively push for it. And those people are crazy. Those people are the ones who have, I don't know, in some way supported this team being in hockey purgatory for so long. The Flyers are finally doing it right. Now, it might have taken a little bit longer than I wanted it to. They didn't tear it all the way down to the studs, but they've certainly made an effort to tear this thing down at least a decent bit. I was at a loss. I truly was at a loss the other night. We'll come back to the Flyers in a little bit because there's some Torts stuff and Michkov stuff, and we got to get there, and it kind of blew my mind. But, man, they traded 4 roster players over the last 2 months. I don't know what else people wanted them to do. Tyler DeMuro over on YouTube checks in with, who would have thought the Union would be better than the Sixers? Some people did, I guess. I don't know. Allison is here. Greg Bondarenko is here. Linda Joseph noting what happened on Saturday. Russ going full Chihuahua mode on Saturday makes Snow the Goalie the best watch around. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have to make a determination pretty soon. I think we have to talk to our friends at the Flyers about what we're doing for next year. Are we re-upping the partnership? Are we going our separate ways? What are we doing? If we're doing more, I have lots of ideas. I have ways to make the show even better. So we'll see. I think I'd be open to it. If after all of these years of covering a really shitty team, and after 2 years of going down and doing the Press Row Show, and doing it with the Flyers support, if after 2 years of bad hockey, if we don't do it next year when I'm pretty confident they're going to make the playoffs, like I can go from being a yippee chihuahua to being like the number one facilitator or catalyst of turning this fan base's fortunes around. I could get people from the doldrums up to the highest of highs. I can do that. We'll see if we do it or not. Chris Freed says, is there an update on the Russ Joy Show March Madness pool? No, I'll set one up, though. I know we're getting close. I'm actually going to be, it's this week. I'm going to be up in New York, and there's a company that I work with in my day job, and they've got a nice suite. So I'm going to go to the Big East tournament, which I'm very excited about. I've never been to a D1 college basketball game, and now I get to go up to Madison Square Garden, a place that I really enjoy, in New York City, a city I really enjoy, and I get to go watch some very nice college basketball in a tournament, a little tournament, but still a tournament nonetheless. And the Big East tournament maybe doesn't have the same impact that it used to, but I'm still very excited. Sean C. says, make the full homestand winless for the Flyers. We're halfway there, living on a prayer. JH asks, why is basketball terrorist Daryl Morey on the thumbnail? Definitely didn't need to wake up to that, because Daryl Morey said something really fucking stupid, and I am so excited. For those of you who have missed it, I'm here, friends. I'm going to let you know. Ford says, we bought 4 Union tickets for Christmas to a game in March. What is this? March 16th, this Sunday. Guess what? Calling for a load of rain. I'm bummed. They don't cancel games ever, really, so any thoughts? Yeah, go down and still enjoy it. It'll be okay. The Union, so Subaru Park, the way that it's set up, you will get rained on, likely. If there's lightning, they'll delay. If it's significant rain, they might get a little bit funky with it. But it's still worth going down. Or you could always try to sell them and punt to another week. I think that going down to a game in the middle of the summer at Subaru Park is still the best. I haven't been down to tailgate in a couple of years, and I know that the tailgating has changed. But, man, for a long time. I mean, I did my bachelor party was at a Union game. One of my other friends' bachelor parties we did at a Union game. I love tailgating down there. You're tailgating like close enough to the water. It's a beautiful park. The sight lines are great. There legitimately is no bad seat in Subaru Park. For as much as I complain about the poverty franchise tag that I put on the Union because they don't spend actual money relative to other teams in the league, it's a great place to watch a game. And as much as I'd love to theoretically have them in the South Philly Sports Complex, I get the desire to be on the water. I do. And it's a beautiful place. Sam over on YouTube says, someone had their caffeine this morning. I did not. I've had no coffee yet. All I've had is a little bit of water. I stayed up really late watching pro wrestling last night. I watched AEW Revolution, which I'll have a full breakdown on. It's Just Wrestling this week. And I don't feel great because I ate a lot of buff chick dip. I did. My wife gave up eating after dinner for Lent. And I'm not going to say that she ate after dinner because I don't think she had dinner. So I think that means that the late night buff chick dip that I made counted as her dinner. So she didn't break her Lent thing that she gave up. Definitely not. I'm gonna hold to that. But I ate a lot of buff chick dip last night. I've had no caffeine. I am gonna crash after the show. I'm gonna have to make myself a latte or something. I've gotten pretty good at the latte art, by the way. Nobody cares. I know nobody cares. But I've gotten pretty good at it. I'm feeling really good about it. Sean C. with a little bit of suggestion for Ford. Maybe call a ticket rep or something. They might be able to accommodate. There you go. See, this is the YouTube comment section. Just coming around, helping each other out. That's what it's all about. Let's see. Tom Umscheid says, can we admit the culture-based rebuild was garbage? They aren't being competitive. That's the Flyers. Which is what we were told the purpose was. Feels like 2 wasted years. So, Tom, first of all, thank you for checking in. I don't remember seeing you before, but this is a perfectly acceptable question. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's a fair question to have. I will point out, and I know that a lot of times I go back and I say, oh, I said this all along. Okay. The thing about what has happened with the Flyers and the thing that I find so annoying and perplexing about it is culture is important, sure. But the thing that I've been pretty resolute in the belief of is that, as I try to pick up this pencil with my toes instead of just taking a second to bend over. Oh, I got it with my toes. Good job. The thing about culture is that I'm cool with you instilling the culture when you have 70% of the roster intact. 65% of the roster intact. They have now spent 2 years harping on culture, and they were harping on that culture with a bunch of players that ultimately aren't going to be here when things matter. And they used a lot of that equity on Frost and Farabee, who are gone. They sort of used it, I guess, with Couturier last year, which Pronger apparently went on Nasty Knuckles. I did not see the interview, but it came up yesterday on a Press Row show that apparently Pronger went on Nasty Knuckles and said that players around the league saw what Tortorella did with Couturier, and it's going to be hard to get a free agent to come here after that. Like, look, I've said all along, culture is important, but if you are wasting that equity on players that aren't going to be here, I don't think it's really worth a damn. And I did have an issue with something that happened in yesterday's game, which we'll get to in a little bit. And I realized that I'm very far behind on the comments here, and I need to, pick up the pace. But, I think when it's all said and done, Tortorella has 1 year left on his contract. The real question is, are they going to extend him? They can't possibly have him be a lame duck because that didn't work out in Columbus when he was on the last year of his contract out in Columbus. Are they going to move him up to an advisory role? Is Mike Sullivan, for whatever reason, going to somehow end up here as head coach? Are they going to hand the reins over to Bradshaw for the year? Are they going to try to go and make a more interesting hire? I don't know. But I think it's fair if you're a fan to ask whether or not it was a wasted 2 years if the best that you have to show for the culture is that this team really does look listless and looks pretty checked out, in fairness. They look like a team that realizes, yeah, we're not making the playoffs. Michael over on YouTube says, fine, bench Matvei Michkov for a shift, but I don't want to hear about accountability from a guy when Rocky Thompson still has a job. I get that. Says, what's the power play? Is there a strategy at all? Do players understand their roles? May as well play yakety sacks every time they try to get over the blue line. It was actually pretty funny because yesterday was a disaster. You know what? I've done enough around, I'm going to come back out to the comments in a little bit, but I think now is probably about the time to go out to what happened post-game yesterday, because there was something of note that came out of Matvei Michkov getting benched. So in case you missed the game on Sunday, which don't feel bad if you did, I am here for you. I am here as your conduit to everything that happens in Philadelphia sports, and if you miss it, I'm here. I've got your back. So Michkov gets benched in the first period. Now, there's a play where Glass goes down, scores a goal, and if you watch, Michkov didn't really back check. He's the last guy back in the play, and presumably that was part of why John Tortorella benched Michkov, who only played 2 minutes and 20 seconds in the first period. Now, that happened relatively early in the period, and he sat the rest of the way. And then it became a conversation point on the first intermission of the Press Row Show. Is he really going to sit him the rest of the game? Because that seems like a vast overreaction. What ended up happening was Michkov played pretty normal minutes the rest of the way, second and third period. But then Tortorella got asked about it post-game. Now, I think most people know where I stand on Tortorella. I think there's a lot of grandstanding, and there's a lot of playing it up for the camera, and there's just a lot of shit that, you just don't need to do anymore. And I get it, and I've heard from a lot of people, Torts has a great heart. He's almost intentionally misunderstood. I hear that. I also heard what Joel Farabee had to say, which I'll play here in a little bit as well. But Tortorella gets asked 2 questions post-game about Michkov. They weren't the only questions that were asked at the presser. You figured that 0-4-0 start to the homestand, to a 7-game homestand, he's not going to be happy. It's probably going to be a short presser. And so, what is the big story? Well, it's that he benched Michkov in the first period. So we're going to go over. We're going to listen in the entirety. I believe this was Colin Newby from 97.5 The Fanatic is the one who shot this video. I saw that The Fanatic also put it up, but I think he was the one who did it, so we'll give him the shout for the video. But 2 questions asked, and then you guys can decide out there if this was fair or if this was not fair to see the reaction that he gave to the media. Here we go.
You've talked a lot about Matvei having learning experiences. In the first there, it looked like after the goal, you kind of sat him down for the rest of the series. How is it hard for you to do that, and especially with him being so young, or is it just one of those moments that it's very easy to do?
No, it's part of the process.
So, okay, let's examine that part first, okay? So on one hand, reporter asks question. Question is relatively fair. Is it hard to do that? Torts says no, and ultimately says it's part of the process. Okay? Fair. We'll keep going.
You had mentioned
Charlie O'Connor now.
a few weeks ago when I believe you sat him.
Citing past precedent about benching Michkov, so we are in a very fair place. Charlie O'Connor, respected writer, does a very nice job, is a beat guy, is down there for practices, is all around the team. Not just somebody kind of flying in on game day like a certain jackass who's currently talking into a microphone.
For the rest of the game, and you had said that in retrospect you would have put it
Just let me tell.
So you could tell that Torts kind of had a little bit of bubbling frustration from the first question, and now Charlie has laid out that before you answer my question, Charlie didn't say this, but this is a beautiful job of doing this. Charlie cites past precedent in setting up his question, which now pigeonholes Torts, because now you're about to not let the coach get away with what might be a bullshit answer, and now Tortorella is faced with, do I answer this question in earnest? Do I allow for the past precedent to be set, or it's already been set, but for it to be cited? So now we get the hand up, we get the interrupting, and now he's going to apparently kind of set the stage for what you're allowed to ask.
Tell you guys something, okay?
Let me tell you.
There are a number of things that come into play, not one specific play, okay? And you are at a disadvantage because I'm not going to give you information. It's
What? So, okay, a lot of things go into the decision. Fine. Not just one play. So maybe Michkov didn't just get benched because of the failure to back check. Okay, that's fine. But then he says, you guys are at a disadvantage because there's information and I'm not going to give it to you. Well, that's kind of fucked. But we'll get back there in a second because it's part of a larger issue. But okay, so you guys are asking about the star player on the team, the one that people pay to come see because they sure aren't coming. While Noah Cates has had very nice, recent stretch. They're not paying money to come see Noah Cates. They're coming to see Matt V. Michkov play. Okay, so you guys don't have all the information, but I'm not going to give you that information. Okay.
It's not always the play on the ice that I'm trying to teach.
Okay.
So use that as a context before you start all your bullshit.
Before you start all your bullshit. Okay, so let me translate. Hold on. I'm actually going to back this up a little bit. Let me go back to where he initially. Okay, follow me on this, okay? I'm going to translate Torts. Here we go. Let me just say something really quickly before you keep going. There are a lot of things that you don't know about. A lot of people, they say a lot of things, and there's a lot of information, but you don't get to know what it is, and I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to tell you. Now, don't start with the fake news because there are a lot of things going in, but I'm not going to tell you what they are, but there are a lot of things, many things, and you can't ask questions. Quite frankly, that's what's happening, folks. That's what's happening, isn't it? All right, so I've translated it. Now, we'll bring it back, and in fairness, we will allow for Torts to have his moment.
Because I'm not going to give you information. It's not always the play on the ice that I'm trying to teach. Mm-hmm. So use that as a context before you start all your bullshit. There are so many things that go on, and with me trying to develop that player, and I'm going to continue to do it the way I think it should be done, but don't just look at the play. No.
Here's the problem, Torts, okay? And this isn't hard, okay? And if somebody wants to send this clip to Torts, they can, okay? And I know that there are people in the organization who watch this show, okay? Torts doesn't give a shit what I have to say. And I'm about to give him a little bit of credit because at some point in this, let me give him the benefit of the doubt because he actually does kind of catch himself a little bit, okay? He catches himself and makes it slightly better, but slightly not. We'll finish it out, and then I'm going to come back.
No, he didn't do the job as far as back checking. No, he didn't do the job in the offense zone, but there are a number of other things that come into play. And again,
this is it.
I need to show you the respect that I'm not going to give you that information, and you don't realize that. So don't make a bigger deal out of it than you think you need to.
Okay. So I'm just going to try to put a cute little bow on this, okay? I think that is it growth for Torts that he's also trying to say, I am kind of screwing you by not giving you the information, and I need to be a little bit more understanding. Maybe. It's weird because he goes into Torts mode, and then there's like a very brief break, like a very brief moment on the inside says, "You're being hypocritical, John. You're being hypocritical, John. You're being hypocritical, John." So it's a weird position to be in, because this would be akin to, you go to a parent-teacher conference and the teacher has thrown out your kid's essay, and you say, "Well, what was the problem with the paper that my kid wrote?" So you go to parent-teacher conference, and the teacher says, "Listen, I had to throw out the essay. I couldn't count it." And you say, "Well, why? Did my kid plagiarize?" And they go, "There were a lot of factors. I didn't just throw out your kid's essay because it was bad. I threw out your kid's essay for a bunch of reasons, and I need to understand that you don't have all the information, but I'm not going to give you the information." Well, did my kid use ChatGPT? Did my kid use an exact anecdote from another kid in class? Did my kid use an example they found online and copy it word for word? Like, what did my kid do wrong? And the teacher just looks at you and says, like, "I'm not going to give you that information, but I will be a little bit sensitive to the fact that you're still going to be upset because I'm not giving you the information, but you shouldn't be upset about it." Was this gaslighting? I don't know. Do I want to go that far? I don't know. Here's the thing. This guy has done the same thing all year with this player. The organization has presumably done nothing to quell it or to tell Tortorella that he needs to stop. So obviously the organization as a whole agrees with the methodology and the way that he has pulled Michkov out of the lineup, or has scratched him, or has benched him, or whatever. Do I think it's bullshit? Yes and no. It's interesting because he says not only on the back check on the goal, but then he also mentions what happened in the offensive zone. So I don't know what else was missed somewhere along the line, but clearly there was another thing. Are we talking about the decorum on the bench? Are we talking about his approach to pregame, to practice? What other factors went into saying, you know what, enough's enough, he's sitting the rest of the first period? If you're not going to provide the context, or you're not going to even come remotely close to providing the context, then it's going to make it very, very difficult for anyone to look at this rant post-game and say, yeah, Torts is justified in his reasonings for benching him. Because you still walk away going, I have no idea why he benched him other than he didn't back check on the goal. That's it. Now, could the media be more forceful? Yes. Could they have pushed back more on this? Yes. It would have been a totally fair thing to say, how exactly are we supposed to do our job if we are paid to evaluate what we see, observe, hear, are told, all of that? This is the job. You are actively withholding information from us and then chastising us for it. Yeah, there probably should have been some pushback on it. And my assumption is, I could be wrong, I would assume that there is a chance between now and Tuesday's game that Torts will either talk to the media in front of the cameras or away from them or something and may give them a nugget. I'm not saying this is going to be like last year with Felix Sandstrom where, he kind of shit on Sandstrom and then was like, all right, he's a young goalie and, I should have gone about that a different way. I think that there might be a slight backtrack coming because I don't know as an organization how you kind of roll with this mindset from the coach with the media postgame. I don't think it was a great look. And I think ultimately it was kind of a mess as I dropped this pencil again. Now, Sean C. Whoopsies. Let me get this. Sean C. says, I balance on a board, by the way, so I'm not just I'm twisting over here. I'm not just falling over for fun. Sean C. says, I thought Charlie had a nice rebuttal to the whole thing on Twitter. The Flyers themselves didn't want this to be the Matvei Michkov show, but you can't blame fans for not buying into that. In fairness, if you go back to a very early season interview that we did with Hilferty, Jones, and Briere on Snow the Goalie, we asked specifically about Michkov being on the billboards, but he's one of 4 players and he's in the background. They didn't want to make Matvei Michkov the centerpiece of this team or the guy who gets critiqued the most because he came in at 19 years old. He was over here before they initially expected him to be, and they didn't want to have the added pressure. They also didn't want to make him available to every game. I called the organization out early in the season for not having a full-time translator available to the media to ask Michkov questions every game. And in fairness, they, I believe, were actively trying to make sure that he wouldn't talk every game because they didn't want it to become a circus around the player. When we do like the full autopsy of the season, I'll have some thoughts on it. As of right now, it kind of is what it is. Let's see. Sean C says, I think the state of the team is getting to Torts. This is the third time in a week that he's hit out at the media. The Risto rant, the knucklehead remark about the Last Supper photo, and now this. JH says, completely fair to ask why the coach is benching the best prospect since Lindros, especially with nothing else happening with the team. And he goes, what the hell else is he trying to teach? Everett's routine, how Lou does his announcements, how many songs they play in a game. Yeah. Philly sports expert says, Ant was so mad yesterday after the game. Is he really finally realized you've been right all along, Russ? No. Ant will never admit that in his mind, I was never right. And in his mind, he is never wrong. This is clearly what the team should have been doing from last offseason, in fairness. Like, trading the Frosts and Farabees and Lawtons could have happened in the offseason. This team could have been even worse all season. They'll still end up, hopefully, with a high enough pick that they're going to get one of the top 3 guys in the draft. That's the hope, right? You're going to have to hope for lottery luck, but they'll hopefully be there. Just given how bad some of these other teams in the league are, Chicago, Nashville, San Jose, it might have been hard for the Flyers, even with trading those guys earlier, for them to be in the bottom 3. That's just how bad these other teams have been. But no, like I am right about how you rebuild. And it doesn't necessarily include tearing it down to the studs. But they are lowering the ceiling, lowering the floor. And this is going to be a really painful final stretch of games for the Flyers. And yet, I remain resolute in the belief that they're going to make moves in the offseason to try to make the playoffs next year. I'm like very confident that that's going to be what is going to happen. And so like on one hand, you could try to chastise the organization. And on the other, you could just say, all right, I mean, they're going to add some more skill. They're going to probably be a player in free agency and trade market. And we see where it goes. Oddly enough, I feel as confident and as happy around the Flyers as I possibly can. It's because they're finally not playing the, hockey purgatory game. Good, lose. Here's the thing, and we always yell about this all the time, right? Bundy on So the Goalie will say, you can't tell guys to lose, and I agree. Never said that you can tell a professional player or John Tortorella go out and lose a game. You can take away the tools from the toolbox, and you can make the tools worse, right? Oh, I need a certain Phillips head screwdriver. Now, here's a butter knife. Good luck. By trading Frost and Farabee, that's part of what they did. I need a box cutter to open this package. Here's a key for a safe that doesn't have a sharp edge. There you go. Good luck. That's what trading Lawton did. They still have tools, but they don't have tools that are good enough to help them win every game or to get the job done. That's the point. And we're great. Let's see. I'm going to keep skipping around here. Philly sports experts with I don't know how many percent that is. Is that 10 million? It's too fast. There are too many zeros. It's finally because you can see from watching Snow the Goalie, Bundy agrees with you. He agreed last night. We're getting there. Everybody's kind of resolute in their own beliefs, and that's okay. And when I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. Not everybody does that, but I do. But I'm not very wrong, am I, folks? Zacho says, oh, yes, joining late. What a trade deadline. Can't wait for the summer trade market to see what the team looks like next season. I agree. Chris Freed says, if the offseason does not go well and the Flyers again miss the playoffs in 26, will Russ be demanding a house cleaning in the front office? What the hell was that? I just looked out the window. There was something big that went by, but I think it was a squirrel. That was a fat squirrel. Holy shit. Will I demand a front office house cleaning? No, but I don't know what a bad offseason would look like. In my mind, they are not making all 3 first-round picks and all 4 second-round picks. I would be shocked. If they used all 7 of those picks, I would be dumbfounded. I think what you're likely going to see around the draft, they'll probably, depending on where they finish, they'll probably try to package what might be like the 7th pick or whatever, that and one of the other firsts to try to move up a spot or 2, maybe. They could attach one of those firsts to a player or a prospect and try to bring somebody in. They could maybe try to punt the Carolina or Edmonton pick to next year's first round, which would make a lot of sense. Maybe you get a team that feels really strongly about a player at the end of the first round this year and you punt and you get a first-round pick next year. Maybe they package a couple of those seconds for a first next year. It might seem crazy, but remember, the NFL draft and the NHL draft are a little bit similar in when that first round gets done, teams really do sit back and they kind of look at that second round as almost like, oh, there are additional first-round picks available right now. You know, the way that the NFL draft has kind of changed over the years, where the second round kind of gets this extra level of importance on the next day, that kind of thing can happen with the NHL. And Jonesy said it at the Carnival on Snow the Goalie, that you're going to see teams that might actually overpay or teams that are going to assign a different value to those second-round picks on draft day. So we'll see. I missed some bad news, I guess. Oh, what happened here? Hold on. Oh, JH has a family member in the hospital and missed the game. JH, I hope your family member is okay. I hope all is well. I saw Jamie here with a nice message. So, JH, I hope everything's okay. Hope the family member's out of the hospital, and if not, hope they get out very soon. Ryan Reese, who said I sit to pee. I saw that, Ryan. I saw that on Press Row Show, said Russ sits to pee. I don't know if I should be offended or not. It's also not true. Or is it? We don't know. We don't talk about urine and urination on the show, Ryan. Says realistically, we could get a draft at 5. Penguins and Seattle have closed the gap and hopefully will pass us after the annual mandatory 10-game losing streak. It could happen. Certainly could. Actually, you know what? That takes us to the point of the show that we should get to, which is Tankathon. We'll do Tankathon for the Flyers for sure. We might get, well, because we're going to have to do Tankathon for the Sixers when I rip Daryl Morey a new one here in a second. But all right, let's go over to Tankathon. Remember, once last week or the week before, we did Tankathon. We ran the sim, and the Flyers jumped to the number 1 pick. Pretty much every time I've done this, they've moved down. And Anaheim has jumped them pretty routinely. Seattle's gotten up there a few times. Let's sim the lottery. Flyers fall to 8th. So here's what I'm convinced about, all right? Now, I don't know this for a fact, but if it were me, I would not want to be in the 7th spot going into the offseason, because I swear to you that almost every time I've run this thing, and maybe it's just Tankathon hates the Flyers, but virtually every time the Flyers have fallen to number 8. Now, if we do reset this, and I understand, I got in an argument with Ann about this yesterday. Oh, it's about the total points. They go by point percentage right now to give you an idea of if the season were to end today, this is how things would kind of shake out. If you are to go by this, right, as it stands, the Penguins have already played 1 additional game, and they lost it, right? Hence, they're at 60 points. The Flyers, if they were to lose their next game and were also at 66 games played, they would still have 62 points. They would still finish ahead of Pittsburgh in a worse spot for trying to get that top overall pick. But if you look in here at where the point totals are, you'll notice that because the Flyers have lost 4 straight games, they are now starting to fall away from this group in the 9 to 13 range. Now, granted, it's a 4-point gap with some of these teams, but they are starting to fall backwards, back farther towards where the Nashvilles are. Now, are they going to make up a 7-point gap to take the 4th best odds of winning the number 1 overall pick from Nashville? Probably not. But if you look at the schedule coming up, they will lose a lot of games, and it's going to get ugly. So if you're that delusional Flyers fan that I showed you from the weekend, who wants to see them make the playoffs right now, good luck. Alex Smith asks, what kind of moves are you talking about in regards to them making the playoffs? Elias Pettersson, et cetera, et cetera. Will it be a big splash? I don't know. I didn't talk to anybody about this. I wanted to see them offer sheet Wyatt Johnston because he's 22, has legitimate, potential 1C upside. I wanted to see them offer sheet him from Dallas. He signed with Dallas to an extension. So I don't know which players. I'll have to take a look. We'll get into it as we get into the offseason. But I think that one thing that we have seen here in recent months in the NHL is that sometimes players that you don't expect to get moved. Mikko Rantanen was one of them. Rantanen got moved twice, and nobody thought it was going to happen. They didn't think it was going to happen from Colorado. They certainly didn't think Carolina was going to pivot off of him 2 weeks, 3 weeks after trading for him. And they did. And now he's long-term in Dallas. So things can always change. Julian does not like Torts, apparently, and says he hates the guy, wants them to move on. So there you go. He won't fire his buddy as power play coach Come on already. Has anyone gotten better year to year with this relic coach? A couple people might have. We'll talk about that another day. Let's see. Zacho says, listen, sometimes you just need a break and you want to sit down. Oh, that was about the peeing thing, I guess. Ant DeGrasse says, love the deadline from Briere. This offseason is offer sheets, trades, 2026's big acquisition. So, yeah, I mean, this could be one of those find some value along the margins, and then 2026 you make the big splash. We'll see. I'm pretty convinced that Briere is not going to, sit on his hands for 2 off seasons in a row. Linda Joseph says, I think the Flyers are what they are right now is a combination of moves that have been made and playing the Torts style of hockey the whole season catches up to you this time of year. Same thing happened last year. You can only expect guys to play the Torts style for so long before their legs fall off, and they're very close. JH says, I can't remember if they allow journalists for the lottery, but if they do, not sure you should go. I don't know if they do. I don't want to go to the draft lottery. I am working on trying to convince Bundy and Ant that we should do a draft day party. I want to do a draft day party. Ideally, I'd like to go to the draft. I'd like to actually take the Press Row show to the draft in California. Out in California. I'd like to take the Press Row show out there because I think we would do some absolutely incredible content around the draft. But if we can't do that, I'd like to do a draft day show, perhaps at a local sports bar or facility. And if any of you happen to know somebody who owns a local restaurant or sports bar or a place that would like to host an event with at least 100 people that would likely love to pay some money for food and beverages and all that, you reach out. Happy to have that conversation. Let's see. Julian C. says, Briere has this blind love for the coach. Torts thinks people come to the arena to see him. His act is so boring already. They're wasting another season next year if he comes back. I don't think he's going to come back as a lame duck. They're either going to extend him or maybe there's a chance that they're going to hand the reins to somebody else next year. I just don't see him coaching in a lame duck season again. Also, I don't think that I'm not positive, right? But part of me thinks that the blind love for Torts isn't either just Briere. I think Briere respects the coach. I think the coach respects Briere. I don't think that Briere has a blind loyalism. I think that there are other people within the organization who are maybe a little bit more enamored with the coach. That's probably fair. Superfan Eric, concerned fan, says, offer sheet Marco Rossi. Maybe. Julian also complaining about TK because he's pretty much vanished. This is also true. It's true. It's not been a good stretch. The last 23, 24 games, I think he has 2 goals. Not good. You've gone a quarter season now, more than a quarter season. 2 goals. That's not going to get it done on the big money deal to a guy that you do expect to score. Has a lot of assists, but he's supposed to be a goal scorer. Not ideal. Okay, I'm going to get off the Flyers. I want to take us now to a very happy place, and that is Sixers land. Oh, did I say happy in Sixers? Yeah, I'm going to tell you why I'm happy. Because Daryl Morey outed himself. Daryl Morey outed himself as a total dipshit. I cannot wait for the day when somebody within Sixers ownership says, yo, enough is enough. And they jettison this dude, way out of here. Okay? There was a quote, and it was going around yesterday, and then there's an account on Twitter called Mad Max, @_Mad Maxi. And Daryl Morey said something about Sixers fans and the anger that Sixers fans had around the Knicks series and around the Celtics series. And I want you guys to listen to this, and I want you to tell me that this sounds like a guy who understands the fan base where he happens to be the president of the team. And what you're going to find here, friends, spoiler alert, is this guy doesn't get it. And I've now said for a while, Daryl Morey has won nothing in this league of value. Bob Myers, who built the Warriors dynasty, is out there. And the smartest thing the Sixers could do at this point is fire Morey and bring in Myers. Now, I want you to hear what Daryl Morey had to say because it was absolutely insane. And I will also point out, again, I'm not the one who clipped this video, so you're going to see some stuff pop up on this person's phone. Can't control that. I don't actually know what the pop-up was, but here we go.
We then lost a close game at home. We then lost a close game at home, which was very frustrating. And then we had a very bad loss in Game 7. And, it's a little bit similar to the LeBron, Michael Jordan argument.
Oh.
Objectively, people should feel better about that. Then the next season, we had a very entertaining Knicks series, like almost famously entertaining. I think it was voted best series that year. And for me, it was just stressful, but for everyone else, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Hold on. Wait a second. Wait. He talks about the Boston series. Says people should feel better about that. I guess because it was later in the postseason and the Boston team goes on to like what? And then what the? I'm sorry. He said, okay, so yeah.
People should feel better about that.
They should feel better about the Boston.
Then the next season, we had a very entertaining Knicks series.
Entertaining Knicks series. Does this fucking guy understand how sports fandom works? Does he understand at all how this works? We had an entertaining series with the Knicks. Boy, hang the banner for that, Daryl. Oh, no, it's okay. The Sixers once again underwhelmed, underperformed, and crashed out early in the playoffs. But at least we were treated to an entertaining series. Boy, howdy, Daryl. You know what? Hang that banner at Wells Fargo Center. 100%.
Lost to the Knicks in an entertaining series. Should feel really good about that loss to the Celtics in the postseason before. Well, it was an entertaining series, guys. We didn't make it to the NBA Finals. We didn't win the Eastern Conference. We didn't even see the second round. But it was an entertaining series.
And here's how he makes it worse.
Like almost famously entertaining. I think it
was famously entertaining. Not a lot of people. Everybody remembers how entertaining the series was with the Knicks, don't we, folks? We remember how entertained we were when Joel Embiid's knee practically fell apart and they said, go back in, Joel, go back in. And in this meaningless series that we all knew was pretty bad because Joel looked hurt.
It was voted best series that year. And
it was voted best series that year. Ah, yes. And the award for most entertaining best series in the postseason goes to the Philadelphia 76ers and New York Knicks, neither of whom won the NBA Finals. Oh, yes. I do decry. Hey, thank you, Daryl. Yes. I'm an idiot. I thought it was about winning, but in fact it is about being the most entertaining series in the postseason. What the fuck is he talking about?
For me, it was just stressful, but for everyone else, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was very stressful. And we lost in 6 games, to a Knicks team that was not as good as the Celtics team we lost to the year before.
This dude is comparing the Knicks team to the Celtics team from the year before and is trying to say that people should have been... What?
And I was very down after the loss. And I was like, man, people are going to be so angry. And they were angry. Obviously, everyone wants us to win. But they were less angry than the year before. And anger is all that drives Sixers fans, as far as I can tell. They were less angry.
You want anger, Daryl? You want to talk about anger, Daryl? You want to know something about anger with Philadelphia fans? All right, I'll tell you something about anger, Daryl. I'll tell you something about anger real well. This Sixers team that you built, this Sixers team that you crashed, this Sixers team that you continue to tinker with, that one, yeah, we're pissed off! James Harden, you had to go and sell a bunch of players in the midst of a season that were actually kind of working. Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, it was kind of working. But instead of waiting until the offseason to go after your boy, your man crush, James Harden, you dealt players mid-season, and it didn't work. Then James Harden was here, had a couple of really good games against the Celtics in the postseason. Oh, boy. And then remind me, How's James Harden playing this year for the Sixers? Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. Getting this word in my ear. Wait. Oh, James Harden doesn't play for the Sixers. Why? Oh, because he was in Hong Kong, right? Or he's in China. One of them. He was somewhere in the Asian continent, and he said Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never play on a team where he is employed again. And then James Harden repeated. He said, I want to say this again, and repeated himself. So that guy that you had the man crush on, that you brought into the city, said, you're such a liar. That was a big part of it. Daryl Morey is a liar. That he got himself dealt out of town. You then decided that in the fall, Joel Embiid, who wasn't healthy, Joel Embiid, whose knee practically fell apart in the playoffs again last season, who then went to the Olympics and didn't look right, who then didn't start the regular season while you sent your head coach out to say, it's all part of the plan, while taking no accountability yourself, you then gave that guy a 3-year max extension before you needed to. Josh Harris has to sign it. That is true. But ultimately, you negotiated that deal. 3-year extension. And what else did you do? You brought in Paul George. Oh, Paul George has always been a big performer in the playoffs. Fake news. Paul George has never had injury concerns. Very fake news. And this whole thing this season has fallen apart. You went from rage against the Celtics to quasi-disappointment against the Knicks, while also being very disappointed in the fact that Joel Embiid was clearly injured, came back into games, to utter apathy this year, where people were like, yeah, we expect Joel to get hurt. Yeah, we expect Paul George to get hurt. I mean, I tried to do the eternal optimist thing. If these guys can be healthy, you get 2 out of 3 of your big 3 playing every 3 out of 4 games. This Eastern Conference sucks, which it still does. This Eastern Conference sucks. You can still make the playoffs. Except everything went wrong. But it wasn't like everything went wrong because it was, an act of God that you couldn't expect. Joel Embiid got hurt, not a shock. Paul George got hurt, not a shock. And then this dumbass goes out, and I don't remember what summit he was at, but this dumbass goes out in the midst of his seat should be not just hot, it should be on fire. He should be jettisoned into the sun. And he's going to say, Sixers fans, they're motivated by anger from what I can tell. Yeah, no shit. What exactly were we supposed to be excited about? What exactly are Sixers fans supposed to be excited about, Daryl? Huh? We supposed to be excited about a broken down Paul George? About a Joel Embiid who clearly didn't agree with whatever injury management plan was being done. He went straight to the owner over your head. What are we supposed to be excited about? We love Tyrese Maxey. That's something to be excited about. Jared McCain before tearing his meniscus looked really good. We'd be excited about that. Hopefully you get a top 6 pick. Be excited about that. Daryl, I'll tell you what. Will make me not angry, and I'll tell you what will make me very excited. You getting fired. That would be great. I would love that. That would make me happy. Daryl Morey getting fired would make me smile. It'd make me warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, and bringing in Bob Myers or literally any other executive from this league, this incestuous league where it's just retread after retread, that's fine. I would like this Daryl Morey experiment to be done. That's what I would like. Okay, now. That was my Sixers point for the show. Jim Cochran says the next interview Morey should do is for a new job. I agree. Yeah. Sean C. says, no way were fans less angry last year. They were really mad, especially because that was another New York team taking down a Philly team. So I'm not exactly that's right. JH says, are you not entertained? No, Daryl Moroni. We are not entertained. Where is Daryl's head at? He's definitely not on Earth, says Greg Bondarenko. Julian says, I'd take Colangelo over Morey. I think I might actually agree. And I hate the fact that I have to maybe agree to that. But I think I might even prefer Colangelo over Daryl Morey at this point as well. It's just fucking brutal. There is this air of being the smartest guy in the room, and he might be. There is a certain level of arrogance that I can't stand. There is a certain lack of accountability that drives me nuts. And if you remember, we're not that far removed from Daryl Morey doing a press conference saying, you might have to squint, but like there's still a playoff team in there. Like we still think that there's a chance that there's a playoff team. So there you go. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. Sean C. says, most I remember about the Knicks series is Maxey putting the team on his back one game, Embiid getting injured on a showboat dunk, Knicks fans taking over because Sixers fans lost faith. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Julian C. says, Morey stays if they get the 6th pick. He trades it for Durant, who's about washed also. All Ding Dong had to do was not sign PG and wait this offseason. PG says the podcast is harder to do than play basketball. Yep. There we are. I'm glad that Jamie Calvario also checked in here with, yay, we won the best series. So there you go, guys. There you go. Yep. So that was the Sixers point. Now, there were a few other things I want to get to, but we're getting a little bit long here on time. I had a thing here that I wanted to get to. Well, let's do the quick thing. The dream, I guess, is over if you were hoping for Myles Garrett. I mentioned this at the top of the show. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but, we finally got to find out how much a player is willing to take to remain in a bad situation in Cleveland and ultimately not accept the, well, I guess he is accepting the fact that he's never going to win anything because he's staying long-term in Cleveland. Myles Garrett got paid in a big way. Gets a 4-year contract extension, gets $123.5 million in guaranteed money, and is going to get an average of $40 million per year on that 4-year contract. That is one of the craziest signings that I've seen in a very, very long time. Connor Allen, I don't think he said this, but this is pretty funny. Championships are nice, money is better. I mean, if you're a pro athlete, right, you always say that your number one goal is to win a championship. Myles Garrett knows in his heart of hearts that they are not winning a championship in Cleveland. I want to ask the people. I'm going to ask all of you in the comments right now on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you had the ability to get $123 million in guaranteed money, potentially land $160 million plus over a 4-year contract, would you take that money knowing that you have no chance of winning a Super Bowl? Now, I get it. Somebody can make the argument, well, Russ, maybe Cleveland at some point loads up. They sell their souls to The Rock, and they somehow win a Super Bowl. I get that. I get that you could maybe have Myles Garrett get cut at some point. He still gets to keep the guaranteed money, and maybe he does glom on with a team late in his career to try to win a Super Bowl. But, keep it to very black and white. If your options were sign with a Super Bowl contending team, let's say get $75 million guaranteed, and get $30 million per year over a 4-year contract, right? So $75 million up front, $30 million per year, so $120 million cap. Or get $123 up front, $160 over that 4-year period. What are you doing? At what point does the money justify giving up the chance to win the ultimate prize? That's what I want to know. Because in my mind, I want to imagine that as a pro athlete, you want to win a Super Bowl. That is your goal. But on a human level, it's hard to turn down $123.5 million. Now, would it have been cool to have Myles Garrett on an Eagles team that's looking to actively, retool and get this thing into a full-out dynasty? Yeah. Do I blame Myles Garrett on the human level to go, yo, if I got to play in Cleveland, yeah, $40 million a year will do it. I don't even know if I blame him. I'm going to see. Let's see. Did we get anybody over in the comments dropping their idea. Jim Cochran says over on YouTube, that's a lot of money to pass up. JH says take the money every time. Jim also makes the point, could have signed with the Birds and not won. That is also possible. Jersey Steamer says, I think, is that a lock? Oh, that's a bag. Take the bag. Okay, I got it. Take the money. Jim says, who wouldn't want to play with Deshaun Watson? Julian says he's so numb to losing. Apparently he's numb to it, or he's so used to it that he's numb to it. Some players don't care. Connor Allen says in the context of they are already set up for life if they're responsible financially. Lawrence Fine says I'd take good money and a chip over just money. Chris Freed says Benjamins always win. It's an interesting thought experiment. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. Okay. There's one thing I can get to here. And we talked about Daryl Morey being very tone deaf, right? And so the last thing that I want to get to here is a player from Philadelphia not being tone deaf. And it's a guy that is very well liked in this town, and it is a guy that I think showed a really good awareness of how his team has been perceived and ultimately understanding why there's frustration in the fan base, or why there would be some frustration in the fan base. Kyle Schwarber went over onto the WIP morning show last week, and I thought that I'm not going to play the whole quote. You can go find it over on their Twitter, but Schwarber talked about the fact that they've fallen short and that it's really hard to win a championship. And he goes on to talk about his playoff success, which is great throughout his career. He's only missed the playoffs one time in his career, and he's been to multiple World Series. But there's an acknowledgement that the team came up short. So on one side, you have Daryl Morey saying, well, we had the most entertaining series as voted by somebody. And then here, you're going to hear Schwarber kind of give you a kind of pull back the curtain on the feeling of what it is to lose. And so we're going to go out to Schwarber, and then we're going to end the show. But I wanted people to hear this because I thought this was good. I think this is going to resonate with this fan base.
The goals every year, right, is to hold a trophy up. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you haven't been in the postseason for, 10 years. If you haven't won a World Series in 108 years, your goal is to hold up a trophy. And I was telling a story that pretty much throughout my career, I've been in the playoffs every single year except one. Been in 2 World Series.
Yep.
So it's a hard thing to do. And don't get me wrong, I've been on a lot of great teams, and this is by far one of the best teams I've been on. And throughout the last, going on 4 years. And it just shows you in our game, I would love to, this is zero excuses by any means.
I like prefacing with the zero excuses. This is smart.
About that, because at the end of the day, we fell short. And we fell short in 22, we fell short in 23, we fell short last year. And that's how we feel.
That's a good thing to know. Not that anybody, I think, was like questioning how the players felt after the last few playoff kerfuffles and not getting it done, but knowing from Schwarber that, in fact, the team as a whole feels like they came up short, that there's disappointment in that locker room, in that clubhouse. That's a good thing.
And every time you exit, it hurts just as more as it did the year before, or whatever it is, right?
Notice that Daryl, isn't talking about we played the most entertaining wild card round series as voted on by somebody on cagematch.com. Pro wrestling fans will understand that maybe. Yeah, we'll keep going.
And it's also too the realistic thing of it's hard to win a championship, and when you do it, I've been fortunate enough to be on a team that's won one. It's the top of the mountain. It's the pinnacle, right? And you want to get back to that feeling. It's that addicting feeling. It's that itch. It's the thing that keeps you up. That you want to get back to it.
Now, in fairness, I believe that a lot of these Phillies players, especially the ones that were in that World Series a few years ago and didn't get it done, I want to believe that they have that same motivation to get back to getting to that level, to reaching the pinnacle and winning, right? Schwarber's done it. And so for him, this is a different feeling because he knows what it takes to get there and to win it. Keep going.
And that's what everyone thinks about. Everyone thinks about that on a daily basis. You know, you think about that in April, you think about that in July, you think about that in August. You know, don't get me wrong, there's going to be challenges throughout the course of the year that you're going to have to challenge yourself to get through that. And you have to find a way to put yourself in a position to be in that spot in the postseason to get to a championship, right? But when you are there, you got to play your best game.
This is the last thing, and it's spot on. But we all know this.
At the end of the day, and you have to play your best game for over a month, and you got to see where it takes you, right? And the postseason is just such a different animal than a 162 game season because you're looking to take advantage of the mistake.
So what I hear there is an introspective player who's won a World Series and understands what he doesn't say that he says we fell short. There has to be a lot of disappointment, right? And I think the disappointment is when you are on a team that probably should have won that Houston series, when you are a team that had no right getting bounced by the Diamondbacks and had no right getting bounced by the Mets, you look at these finite windows and you know that these guys aren't getting younger. Schwarber knows how he feels when he wakes up every day. He knows how his body feels. Rio Muto knows how he feels. Castellanos knows how he feels. Harper knows how he feels. Nola and Wheeler, they know how they feel. They're not getting younger. So hearing a guy who is a locker room leader go out and acknowledge we fell short, and it sticks with us, is good. And at the same time, it's also fair to have this kind of thought like Sean does. The unfortunate thing is Leopards don't change their spots. Can't trust the lineup to bring it together when it comes to consistency. And Connor says, don't feel any different after hearing this. Heard the same thing after the D-backs series. I've changed my viewpoint on the season to just enjoy Harper's Hall of Fame prime and not have playoff expectations. That stinks. And Jamie here really likes Schwarber, says it's going to be sad if he leaves or after his contract expires. I don't see him sticking, and that sucks because he's a great leader in the clubhouse. I like Schwarber a lot. Hearing that makes me think that he's a thoughtful dude. And in a sport where there are a lot of there are some characters and there's a whole lot of, boneheaded stuff said a lot, it's good to know that there's at least one person who's willing to be introspective, and I think that's a good thing. We will find out this season whether or not this lineup is able to take it to another level, if they're able to be consistent. I am still not sold on it, but I'm at least a little bit more confident, I guess, in the team's leadership, knowing that there's at least one guy who has his mind in the right place, unlike Daryl. And on that, we're going to end the show for today. I will be back possibly Tuesday night on the Press Row Show. I have something for work over the next few days up in New York, so I will try to be at pregame Tuesday. I will have this show. I'm going to take my recording stuff with me. I'll do an episode Wednesday morning, I think. I might have to pre-record it, but I'm going to do a show Wednesday. It might be live, it might not. I'll let you know at the top of the show. But I'll do a show from Manhattan on Wednesday. Thursday, the plan is to try to get an It's Just Wrestling in, or maybe do it tomorrow so that I have one to review Revolution. And then I'll be back again on Friday with the Russ Joy Show. Thursday night, I will be at pregame. I'm going to floor it back from Manhattan to get back in time for pregame and intermissions and postgame of Flyers game on Thursday. So I'll still be around. I'm going to take my recording stuff with me because I am committed to each and every one of you, just like a lot of you wonderful people have been committed to this show. Do me one favor. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. It really does help on YouTube. And if you like listening to the show after the fact in the podcast feed, it is always available. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today. It was a very long show. It was way longer than I expected it to be, but this is what happens when Daryl Morey says something stupid and Torts kind of lashes out at the media, and Myles Garrett sells his soul. And it just a lot of things going on in Philadelphia sports. I got to as many of the comments as I could today. I know that there's like a large chunk where I totally missed people. And so for that, I do apologize. I think I got to very many of you, but maybe not all of them. And this one was funny from earlier. When I was doing the one voice, I said it kind of sounded like Pinky. Tyler DeMuro said, "Are you sure that wasn't Dobby?" It might have been. Harry Potter must never go to Hogwarts. I'll be back soon. Thanks again, everybody, for joining me today. I will talk to each and every one of you Wednesday morning here on the Russ Joy Show. Until then, I've been Russ Joy, but you figured that already because you're smart. That's also the name of the show. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you soon.